Let's go right to ABC's Maggie Rulli in Lviv, Ukraine, not far from that attack. Victor Kendo is in Krakow, Poland, and Alex Prochet is in Washington. Maggie, I want to start by asking you about this bombing. This was 10 miles from the Polish border, right at NATO's doorstep. Russia said one of the reasons they hit this location, though, is because foreign fighters were there. So what can you tell us about this site, and who are these foreign fighters?
Hey, Diane. Yeah, this seems like a major escalation here in this war. And that base that you're talking about, it's in Yavoriv. It is a well-known military base. And it's a base where NATO troops, including American troops, are known to have been training Ukrainian fighters. Now, President Biden pulled out all American troops weeks ago. The Florida National Guard was there. They have all since been removed. But we are aware that some volunteer international fighters were there. And some of our team on the ground in Poland met up with American fighters that say they were volunteering at that base when the explosion happened. Now, exactly what they were doing there, were they training, that is still unclear. But the base itself is well known to be involved in the military. It's also, though, on the evacuation route for many refugees. And that's part of the complication here is that, yes, it is known as a route to bring arms in, but also to bring people out, Diane. So a major concern, a bomb is going off where we know civilians are also on that road.
Now, a key test of diplomacy for the Biden administration is underway today as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan meets with his Chinese counterpart. So, Alex, what's at stake there?
Well, Diane, there's a lot at stake, especially after these reports. ABC News hearing from a senior official that Russia had reached out to China for support in its ongoing war with Ukraine. China has called that fake news and says that it was a malicious attempt to spread falsehoods by Washington. But look, I mean, at this point, the U.S. says that it's watching China and its interactions with Russia. They've reached out to Beijing to warn them that any intervening in helping Russia, especially with some of the sanctions that have been levied by the U.S. and the rest of the Western allies, is something that would be taken very seriously.
Now, Alex, what's the latest on the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine? We're hearing there's a pause, so what now?
So that fourth round of peace talks got underway. There was some considerable optimism going into these peace talks from both sides, signaling that maybe there had been a little bit of a rolling back from some of the hardline positions that Russia had demanded of Ukraine from the get-go. But we do know that they've paused talks today for what Ukraine's chief negotiator called a technical pause. He tweeted that a technical pause is being taken in the negotiations until tomorrow. Additional work is being done with subgroups and clarifications of individual definitions.
So, Victor, more than 2.8 million people have reportedly fled Ukraine so far. Roughly half went to Poland. Now, senior U.S. officials say that the total number of refugees could top 8, maybe even 10 million. What would that look like, and what's being done to ease the burden on Poland?
Well, right now I can tell you that the leaders of the biggest cities here in Poland, Warsaw and Krakow, have been warning that they are running out of room and resources. According to the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, about 80 to 100,000 arrived in Krakow in 2 weeks. Warsaw has already accepted more than 200,000, and we have a source there telling us that that number is likely closer to 300,000 refugees there alone. We spoke with the city official here in Krakow. Basically told us that Ukrainians should start looking at some smaller cities within Poland that might be better equipped, better suited for them right now because they are just swelling up here in the larger areas in Poland. Organizations, though, are offering some free plane or train tickets to other parts of to other parts of Europe to help ease the burden here on Poland, which has taken in more than half of the total refugees so far. Diane?
And Maggie, Russia has increasingly been hitting civilian homes and infrastructure with their attacks. We got reports of a strike hitting an apartment building in Kyiv today. So what's the latest on the fighting and the effort to get civilians out?
Yeah, well, so many of these places, especially in Kyiv, along the southern border and eastern front, have just been shelled and bombed for 2 weeks now, Diane. We've all seen those horrible images. Many civilians are still trying to leave, but many of the humanitarian convoys trying to get in have been stopped. Civilian convoys trying to get out have been shelled. Those that do make it out are trying to figure out what to do next. And Diane, while many are going to Poland, like Victor said, other places in Europe, so many cannot leave this country. They are still remaining in Ukraine. And for those internally displaced people, they're kind of stuck in limbo. You know, it's hard to almost believe, but today, 13 school districts open up across the country in Ukraine. They've been closed since the start of the war, but they realize that they have to give kids living in this war-torn country some kind of normalcy. We went to one of those schools today, Diane, here in Lviv. They just opened back up. Everyone at this school was back in the classrooms, socializing, and they also were taking in a lot of refugees from the east. You know, we sat down with these kids, some in 4th and 5th grade, some in 8th grade, and they were talking us just about how scared they were when a couple weeks ago they were told by their teachers to pack up everything they had. They were leaving that morning. They told us how they heard bombs overhead, and now they had to uproot themselves, have a 2-day journey here to Lviv where they know no one. They're here without their parents. All of these children were by themselves, and now they're back in school. And we talked to some of the guidance counselors there, and they told us it is so important for kids to have this sense of normalcy. And we saw them playing outside, playing with, you know, kicking a ball around, laughing with their friends in class. And for a lot of them, you could just tell, you know, that the joy of the children and their laughter reminds you that even when a country's at war, it's just so important for kids to have the chance to be kids. And that's why schools are open here, despite the danger that we feel here in Lviv and throughout all of Ukraine right now, Diane.
And Maggie, is there any sense of more kind of tension there now that the fighting seems to be spreading to other cities?
Yeah, it's hard to ignore, Diane. The city of Lviv is still very open right now. We just went for a walk, and there are people out and about. Grocery stores are open, but there is this sense of anticipation, not only by the fact that, you know, U.S. intelligence is showing that Russia seems to be taking on targets further and further west, but also because the city has taken on so many refugees. Hundreds of thousands of people that have had to flee their homes are now here in Lviv trying to figure out what to do next. The city is struggling to keep up with the demand of all of these people. It's like why you see the school taking on these children that have also been displaced. Everyone's trying to rise to the challenge, but it's difficult. And there's also the stress everyone feels of just trying to survive every day when you don't know what's going to happen next. And Diane, it's tough for everyone, but especially these children. You just feel for them when you meet them. And, you know, again, 4th and 5th grade, 8th grade, 13-year-olds, just going through so much right now. It's so great when you can see them smile. It reminds you that, you know, they can still find some joy even when, well, everything's going wrong around them.
And I'm sure you'll take every bit of joy you can find right there, Maggie. Maggie Rulli in Lviv, Ukraine for us. Victor Kendo, Alex Prochet, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.